So the facility manager, basically these are the primary responsibilities of a facility manager, okay? And they start off with facilities planning, the overall plan for that particular complex. My facility in particular, General Dynamics, part of my facilities planning is, where am I going to build the next building? What part of my 126 acres do I have? Facilities planning, what's my capital plan? How much capital do I need to continue the upgrades of the capital? Roof replacements, parking lot refurbishments. Okay, that's all part of my facilities planning. How do I provide my services to my 3,500 customers that I have on my site? They're also involved in engineering and design of new facilities. This is where you come in. So say, for instance, you get a job position with a general contractor and you become a construction manager. And you're asked to maybe build another wing in a hospital. And again, I go back and mention, part of your meetings is going to involve a facility manager. They're the individuals that are going to take your wing when you're finished with it and incorporate that right into their maintenance plan, right into their facilities plan. So how you interact with them is going to be key. Other items that you do is engineering and design of facilities and modifications, tenants, renovations. We're involved in those as well. Okay. Support of maintenance and repairs, construction of facilities. That's another position that I hold as well. So large renovations that are going on right now at my facility, I'm involved in them. I have an in-house project management team, construction managers, that report to me and I support. But these are the individuals that conduct all the renovations. Some cases I will sub out to a general contractor, which we do have a small 6,000 square foot metal building that's being erected in the next 3 months. But that was completely subbed out to a GC that has a construction manager on site that's managing that because it's new construction. So for me, I'll kind of tailor on what I want to sub out and what I want to keep in-house. But that's another responsibility of the facility manager. Equipment installations, maintenance and repairs of the entire infrastructure, systems selections and evaluations, and of course, evaluate proposals and contracts. So again, for every construction project that you'll have a facility manager that's going to be involved, or at least a building manager that's going to be involved in the discussions and conversations. So facilities planning, take another step forward. Process of determining the needs and costs of the land, physical facilities that will satisfy the needs of the building. So I have a budget. So I have to what? I have to develop a budget where I'm going to support my facility for 12 months. So can you imagine what's in my budget? What do you think is in my budget? What do you think I got to pay for? Utilities. Okay, utilities would be one. Labor, my labor. I put my salary in there first, right? Okay. Right, first thing, right? Outside services, all the contract support that we have, resident contractors, that cost is going to be in there. Materials, it's going to be a cost that's going to be included. Permits, licenses, software is going to be part of that budget. So part of my facilities plan is to come out and construct a budget, develop a budget for the entire year. So if I have construction, part of that budget is going to include equipment startup, equipment maintenance, okay, and even equipment replacement. Okay, just replaced a large air handler about the size of this room, about 150-ton air handler, huge. It's a walk-in air handler. But again, when they built the building around this air handler. That was in 1982. So when the bottom of the pan disintegrated with rust because it had humidification in it, and it came time because I had a lot of particulates that were contaminating a lot of product. Okay, that was basically degrading the coils because over time and age and use, wear and tear, that air handler had to be replaced. Do you know how I took out that air handler? Piece by piece. Do you know how I put the air handler back in? Piece by piece, okay? So if they would have given me a tilt slab wall where I could have brought in a crane, hooked it up, pushed it back, took the other air handler, just pushed it out, put the new one in, I would have saved about $500,000 in labor. But again, it's just thought. So now I go back to the original architect, who's here in town, by the way, and I go back, yes, and says, why did you do it this way? Okay? But again, these are some of the questions you'll be able to ask, and then apply those to the facilities industry. Okay, we're also in charge of master plans as part of the facilities. You know, where's the next parking? What are we going to do with undeveloped property? Cost savings and efficiency improvements on a continuous basis. So energy is huge right now. Sustainability. So finding ways in how we could operate a facility at optimum. So say, for instance, you're developing a building, you're installing it, one of the questions you're going to have, and probably for the gentleman from the U of A, there's energy management systems, I'm sure, with that building. So how do you, what type of system do you have? Is it a Johnson Control or is it Siemens? And does this system interact with the rest of your energy management program and software? Is it compatible? Other items is, what are you going to measure the building on in regards to energy? So again, so all these questions are going to be relevant to that. Okay? Has anybody ever given this thought? I mean, during all the classes that you've been taking through ASU? It's like, who's going to manage the, this facility campus when I'm done with it? So, those are just some questions that you want to ask yourself. It says, who's actually going to manage this, this campus or this facility or this wing when it's completed, when it's done, okay? And the last one would be align the FM goals to the needs of the business. So again, these are strategies. This is a capital planning strategy plan, long term, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Okay, so again, these are just some of the responsibilities of the facility manager. Okay, so some of the facilities plannings are going to require site development costs. Okay, possibly a drainage report. Okay, it's going to be part of that category. So if I'm going to consider regrading a parkland, you're civil. Okay, which way is it going to drain? Or maybe I got low spots as it is now, and I'm going to find a way. So we always try to find a way in how we improve the site. I've always known that's been a low spot in that part of the parking lot. But guess what? I'm going to build a 100,000 square foot storage facility right there in that corner. So I'm going to take care of the drainage while I'm there, okay, and take care of it once and for all. Okay. Other items would be, code requirements such as detention ponds or retention ponds. Keeping as much as the stormwater runoff on your particular facility, on your property. Okay. Construction costs are going to be included on it. What's going to be the cost of that? Operating costs, again, maintenance plan. Okay. Support equipment costs, if I choose to either sub that out or have someone else perform that particular maintenance. Okay. And then some of the other costs would be maybe specialties. Okay, this would be specialty equipment. It would be considered other costs. Okay, such as a hospital. Maybe I have some certain type of equipment or meters that I'm not qualified or I'm not certified to test and perform tests on. So some of the other costs on my budget is going to be those particular ones. Palo Verde Nuclear Generations Facility, they have certain calibrations that they got to perform by the NRC. So some of those, their facility staff cannot perform those calibrations. They have to be done by a certified external entity. So that's where some of the other costs are going to be included, okay, in regards to that. So let's talk about engineering and design, facilities engineering and design. So what we take is basically what we do in project management, we're solving problems, aren't we? Someone brings a problem to us and we're going to come up with a solution, alternatives for that. So it's a conversion of concepts, okay, turning the conversion of concepts into solutions, working drawing specifications for the construction of facilities, procurement, part of the contracts, and installation of equipment, systems, and infrastructures. So that's another component within facilities management, okay, to where we're going to actually take what the problem is and we're going to resolve it with a solution and then integrate it into the entire facility. So say, for instance, I am extending a hospital. Maybe I'm building, D-wing, where D-wing has to really be compatible to the rest of the hospital's infrastructure. So the connectivity, if I have processed water is going to be involved in that. If I have power distribution, it has to be tied into part of that. Okay, so where I come into play is going to be determining that everything's going to be compatible. It's going to work when it's done. Bless you. Okay. So let's move on here. Roles and tasks. Okay. Facility systems, infrastructure, and equipment evaluations. Do you remember the air handler I was talking about that had an end-of-life use on that particular unit? Okay. We conduct equipment evaluations on a regular basis. Power distribution systems, plumbing systems, connectivity, cable systems, elevators. They all have an evaluation that's going to be conducted on, and that's done on an annual basis. Roofing systems. Roofing systems are inspected on a regular basis. Okay. How cold has it been in the mornings? Nippy. It's been flat out cold. This is not right for Arizona, right? It's been down in the 20s. When I left my house this morning, it's 29 degrees. Do you know what that's doing to my site right now? What do you think it's doing to my site? Plants. Well, yeah, I didn't clean plants. Yes, with the frost. Okay, it's freezing pipes. These are pipes and coils and air handlers. up on the roof in penthouses. It's literally freezing coils. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. It says, we've never had this phenomenon before. This is not right. We are not designed and structured to handle freezing temperatures. Now, if my facility was in Boston or New York City, that's a different story. But the design parameters would have been different as well. The selection of equipment would have been different as well. But this is Arizona. I mean, what's the coldest it gets in Arizona? 48 degrees, right? Most air handlers you can install just about anywhere. The biggest problem we have is heat and sunlight oxidation here. So again, so the application, so this extremely cold, freezing temperatures has really been playing havoc in my facility. So now this has caused me to reconsider my maintenance plan. So now part of my maintenance plan is to find all the exposed coils, not so much just the piping. We had a 6-inch chill water line, that big around, right? You've got water flowing through it. It froze. How could that happen? And it split the pipe. It split the pipe. And I'm thinking, I says, no, wait a minute. This is not right. But it is. It's insulated.
Well, I know that, but the flowing water, I thought, couldn't freeze.
And that's what I thought too. So,
I mean, that's
right?
Engineering
Right? So part of your air handling system is you have what? You have freeze sensors.
Wow.
Wherever the temperature drops to a certain level, you shut off all the dampers so you don't have any more outside air coming into your air handler, right? So you don't want to freeze the coils. However, in this particular one, with the cold coming as fast as it did, it could not cycle fast enough.
Wow.
Now, there's another question that comes up in that same section of 6-inch chill water. We're having, once we remove that section of pipe, it was installed in 1957. So does this give you some food for thought? It's like, okay, now there's something not right about this pipe. So maybe you send it to a metallurgist and ask him, can you do a complete, breakdown on the metals? Because what do I want to do? I want to prevent this from happening next winter, right? 10 feet down the line. So again, they may come back to say that's the end of life of that pipe. So guess what? Part of my facility plan, I replaced that entire section of pipe with new pipe. Okay? But again, in facilities, like I mentioned, it's never one dull moment. So I always encourage you, if you have the opportunity to work for facilities, actually it's kind of a cool profession. Okay. Consultant oversight, commissioning. Everybody's familiar with commissioning, right? Okay. Making sure that the systems are operated and operate as what they're intended for. Okay. Another aspect of facilities management, making sure that everything works as well as it should be. Has anybody ever bought a used car? How many hands here? Who's bought a used car before? Quite a few, right? So what does the owner tell you before you buy this used car? And you ask them this question: how does it run? What do they tell you?
Runs horrible.
Runs horrible. The motor leaks oil, it smokes, it's on its last leg. You don't want to buy this car. Do you think they tell you that? No way, right? Okay. Has anybody ever bought a bad vehicle before? It's like, I wish I would have never bought this car. Okay, thank you for being honest, right? It's like you get it home, 6 months later the transmission goes out of it, right? It's like, gosh, if I would have known this, I would have worked on that, right? But again, it gets back to that saying, you get what you pay for. But on equipment, the equipment, it's new equipment, it's brand new equipment, it's just been installed. Your expectations, that piece of equipment is going to perform for what it was intended for. Never knew that, they put subgrade materials, or maybe they didn't put the best valves in it, or maybe they didn't put, drainage lines in that particular unit so I can service it once it gets to that point. Again, so part of that tie-in between facilities management and construction engineering is making sure for the client, the end user, everything ties in smoothly. So there's no hiccups. Biggest way that I always rate an architect in an MEP firm is how many change orders I've got to do after they left the building for a year. Okay, these are all slight modifications that I've got to do, okay, to perform, okay, in regards to that. Okay. Just one item: co-development of operations, maintenance, and repair criteria. You'll be involved in that. Okay. Well, how would you be involved in that from a construction standpoint? How would you be involved in coming up with some sort of maintenance plan? What do you think you can contribute to that? Any thoughts, any ideas? Say, for instance, I'm designing, let's pick a building. I'm going to design a convention center. Okay, so you got all your prints. In fact, they took my prints. I wanted to use that as a prop. Okay, so I got all my prints here, right? I'm filtering through the prints. I'm getting down to the mechanicals, and I'm looking at all mechanicals. I've got a huge amount of piping I've got to install in this particular building. How can I support the operations and maintenance portion for the owner?
Be able to get through all the valves and
Yeah,
things without
right?
running into pipes.
So you look at the valves and you say, well, okay, there's a nice valve, but is there a catwalk that gets up to that valve? Do they have unions at each side of the valve, or do I got to cut the pipe off and then install unions? Which means I got to shut down the entire system. So again, so these are some questions as you go through and you highlight. Now this is supporting the maintenance side. Somebody is going to buy you a steak dinner for all these items that you find, right? But again, cost is everything, isn't it? So part of that is like, you know, if we don't put unions in, it's a cost savings. But yet on the other hand, if you consider after the building is now commissioned and placed in operation, the cost to shut down that hospital, or the cost to shut down the convention center to replace a 6 or 8 inch valve, it's going to be significant. What's the cost of a couple unions, right? So this is where really, where you come in, the power that you're going to have is coming in and finding those exact items, okay? Roofing systems, you know, do they have the scuppers in the right spots? Scuppers usually, where do they locate scuppers in roofs typically? The low spot or the high spot? Design is the low spots, right, John? Real world?
Somewhere in between. No, somewhere in between.
Typically when you got 2 feet of water on the roof, then it hits the scupper, right?
Yeah.
Well, we know we're saving water, right? We're being, you know, we're harvesting rainwater, right? Okay? Or snow, or whatever the case may be. So these are some of the items that you catch when you do review. You know, what is the slope, what is the grade? So these things are easier to find in the field and correct in the field than after the building's occupied. Okay? Engineering support, typically it's provided with an in-house staff within facilities, and I do have staff engineers, a mechanical and electrical engineer. And their job, their entire job is to look at infrastructures and provide design oversight for consultants, as well as perform design from within the building. Okay? If I was a larger, maybe for the county, I'd probably have some civil engineers on staff, okay, looking at all the drainage and floodplains and so on. And maybe if I was in a different type of industry, I may have an architect on staff, okay, that designs, or an interior designer, okay, depending on what the application is. I've got specialists in regards to technicians, primarily for HVAC systems and electricians. Okay, these are skilled, certified crafts folks that perform that. You've probably met some of them at the U of A. Okay, these are facilities folks that do nothing but maybe energy management systems.
Yeah, they have their own dedicated engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers.
Yep. And they know the infrastructure like the back of their hand. So these folks are worth their weight in gold. Okay. But again, at some point, they were probably hired from a previous job.
It's actually kind of weird because there's the U of A engineers, and then there's the design team that they hire to design the building. They conflict each other all the time.
You know, and where you want to get to from a facility management standpoint is have these two entities work together.
Yeah.
You know, so you use your in-house resident engineers to provide all the background information, like perhaps this is a hot and cold call area. It's always been that way for the last, 5 years. So here's my opportunity, like that low spot of my parking lot. Here's my chance to fix that, by maybe conduct an air balance or water balance, or maybe install some additional controls. But that's where the facility manager steps in. That's where we facilitate the two, the external component, the external engineering group, and the internal engineering group. Internal engineering group knows everything about the facility. All the little quirks, all the little intricacies of the facility. So really what they want to do is manage those and pass those on to the MAP consultant. So now they have the full, they have the full package, the full view, okay? But for the most part, you were mentioning conflicting. There's a lot of synergy that happens in those design meetings, because whatever is changed is dollars to the construction project. So of course, you have typically, I don't know what type of project it's maximum guaranteed price or whatever the mechanism is, or the contract delivery. Is a CM at risk, is finding every opportunity ahead of time, okay, to ward off any change orders on the back end. Okay, but again, this is where the collaboration goes, hand in hand in regards to that. So the ones that are really caught in the middle of this is the maintenance folks, as you get the two the two organizations working together. In this case here, if they are conflicting against one another, that's what you want to minimize and prevent. Okay. Systems commissioning, and of course the final inspections of the buildings. Okay. Contract work inspections. Again, everything that we perform within facilities, within either maintenance or in construction, will have some sort of contract document. You studied contracts, right, as part of your courses here at ASU? Okay, different type of contract mechanisms and different type of mechanics to contracts and so on. Same thing on the maintenance contract. It's going to be a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, extended deadline type contracts. Some are going to be service just for labor. Some are going to include materials and labor on the contracts. But very much so what you have in construction, you're going to have it the same for maintenance. In some cases, you're going to have a contract that's going to include new construction or renovations. So you'll use that resident contractor that originally built your building, come back and perform some of the maintenance in your particular building. Okay. So in some cases here, you're going to have the contract terms that are being met. So there'll be some performance criteria, such as filters. We replace the filters with our in-house technicians. But we buy filters, though, we don't manufacture our own filters. We got to go buy them. So we have over 250 air handlers at my site, General Dynamics, that have filters. So we'll buy the filters in bulk. But again, for that many air handlers, I don't have enough room to store that many filters. So I've got to schedule those filter changes just in time, so I don't have to expand my storage warehouse by another, 30,000 square feet. So for me, it saves General Dynamics money. By one, I don't have to build more capital, but yet it requires me to schedule when those filters deliveries are coming in on a regular basis. So when a customer calls up and says, Patrick, I can't have you perform maintenance on my air handler. That air handler maybe took 100 filters. I've got 100 filters in stock now that I'm going to have to really put there until I have time to go change those filters. So again, and we'll get into that in planning and scheduling within the maintenance and how that supports that. Okay. Payments, of course, invoices are going to have to be paid. Change orders, believe it or not, within a maintenance realm, you're going to have change orders. Maybe there's a contract addendum. Okay. Maybe there's a change. We're going from night cleaning, custodial cleaning to day cleaning. So that's going to be a contract change. Okay. And then, of course, internal and external inspectors. So the inspection portions are really the building's infrastructure. So we're inspecting equipment, we're inspecting systems, we're inspecting infrastructures, especially now. Again, I go back to this cold snap. Once the weather stabilizes, we'll probably have a few folks going up on the roof and inspecting the roofs. What do roofs do a lot between hot temperatures and cold temperatures? They contract, don't they? So if I have a lot of built-up roofs in my facility, what's keeping me up at night, if that temperature all of a sudden goes up to 70 degrees, like in 24 hours, what I'm worried about is sections of my roof splitting, which now, of course, what compromises the integrity of the roof. And once that's done, how that repair is done is going to be critical. Other items would be piping. Piping expands as well. And that was one of the questions we had, why that 6-inch line split. Okay? But all these are little small items that you consider part of the maintenance realm. Okay? And what exposure the building